So it's Throwback Thursday,
Throwback Thursday.
Mark Fisher style, which means story time.
Oh, you want to hear a story?
I do.
Well, it's coming up close to Thanksgiving. We're a week away from Thanksgiving. So should we do a story that's related to turkeys?
Is this the one about the squirrel?
The
The turkey and the squirrel?
turkey and the squirrel. Yep, the turkey and the squirrel story.
Yep, let's do it.
We got to make sure that Greg Cronkite is tuned in for this story. So we'll get him on the phone and make sure he's tuned in. We'll watch the intro music and we'll come back and tell the turkey hunting story.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to MFO, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher.
I'm Megan Fuller.
You want to hear the turkey hunting story?
Yeah.
This was back when, again, right out of college in my 20s, and my good friend Greg Cronkite graduated college, got himself a good job in business, and moved to Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And I was up here, teaching and grinding away, making very little money, and he was making big bucks in Atlanta. And he called me and said, "Mark, you got to come down here to Georgia. We got great hunting. I'm part of a club, and we can go turkey hunting on my hunting club." I'm like, "Cool, man. I'm in."
All right.
So I drive my little beater car down to Georgia, and I meet up with him, and he's got a nice house. And again, you got to remember, we're in our early 20s, so it was a pretty nice house for that age and where he was in his life. And I'm thinking, wow, this hunting club if he lives in this nice a house, this hunting club is going to be pretty awesome. I'm in for a great weekend. So we get in his car and we head to his hunting club, which was several hours away from Atlanta. And it takes quite a while. So by the time we get to the hunt club, it's dark. And we pull up and I'm like, this looks more like a shed or a shack than a hunt club.
Uh-oh.
And boy, when we walked into that shack, it was a little cabin with 2x4 beds that were built out of 2x4s with a cot mattress on it. And there was just, the countertops were old linoleum with old pots and gross baked beans left in the pots from who knows how long. And there were mice all over, hundreds and hundreds of mice as we opened up. No electricity, no heat. And he had warned me about that. Well, I had brought a sleeping bag, so we throw the sleeping bag on this little cot mattress and kind of, it's late, so we're gonna sleep a little bit, and then we're gonna get up real early in the morning to go turkey hunting, which I had never done before, by the way.
Okay.
So that night, didn't get a whole lot of sleep that night, primarily because as I'm laying in my sleeping bag, these mice are running around on top of the sleeping bag. I'm constantly kicking my feet and literally mice are going flying off the sleeping bag. And that did not promote a lot of very well-rested night.
A lot of REM sleep.
And again, you got to remember, this is after driving from Chicago to Atlanta and a full day. So I was pretty tired.
Right.
So we get up at whatever time in the morning, 4:00 in the morning, something like that. It was still dark, and we are in our camo and we got our shotguns, and he knows how to get from the cabin to the place that we're gonna turkey hunt. And when you're turkey hunting, you sit by a tree, you're all in camo, you got to sit very still, and you're going to do some calls, and call these turkeys in off the roost. Well, we do that for a couple hours and we don't see anything, don't hear anything. So Greg gets the idea that maybe what we need to do is split up a little bit and just kind of, see if we can't be more effective by being, each of us in two different places. So the plan was, hey, we'll split up for a couple hours and we'll meet back where I am. I'm going to stay where we started. He's going to go somewhere else. We'll meet back and come back.
Because he knows the land.
Because he knows the land. I have.
Right.
I've been walked out in the dark to a tree and sat there and don't know anything about anything, right? So,
right.
And again, you got to remember, Megan, this is all before cell phones, before GPS, any of that kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
So I'm sitting at that same tree for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Like, he isn't coming back. And I've not heard a shot. I've not heard anything. So ultimately, I'm like, oh, maybe I should see if I can find my way. Maybe I didn't hear him correctly. Maybe I was supposed to meet him back at the cabin or something. So I start trying to find my way back to the cabin, which is a total mistake because at that point, I am now completely lost. And it's getting to be like early afternoon by this point, well past any time that I'm thinking that we should be, we were supposed to be back to the cabin eating or something like that. And keep in mind, by the way, I haven't had a thing to eat, maybe a cup of coffee in a thermos, something like that. So I start walking around and I am completely lost in a Georgia forest, no cell phone, no idea where I am, not finding a cabin, not finding a road, not finding anything, not hearing anything. So I get to the point where I'm doing what I know to do back then, which is every hour on the hour, I'm firing 3 shots. Boom, 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 and listening. Nothing.
Because you're thinking he should fire back,
he should
right?
fire back, and at least that way we can kind of go towards the sound, but nothing.
Okay.
So at one point, as I'm walking, I'm going, geez, I've been out here a long time and I don't know that I'm going to make it back to any place. I may be staying out here tonight. And I see a squirrel going across a branch. And what I end up doing, I take that shotgun and I plug that squirrel and I shot that squirrel. I'm thinking if I'm going to stay out here overnight, at least I'm going to have something to eat. So I take that squirrel and I put him in my vest pocket.
Okay? Yummy.
Yeah, and I'm just really looking forward to spending the night on my own in a Georgia forest with a squirrel.
Well, it might be better than mice.
Yeah, right. So continue doing this whole thing every hour, boom, 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 nothing. There was one time where I got to a swamp and I looked across and about 500 yards away through this swamp, there was another shack and it had these big, I don't know what they were, pit bulls or whatever, tied to chains around their necks, barking like crazy. And the thought was, do I cross this swamp to get to that shack, to those dogs and whoever lives? And I decided that wasn't I'd be better off being in the woods with my squirrel. So I never even went to that shack. I avoided that shack and kept looking for a logging road or something along those lines. Finally, it had to be.
Maybe you were walking in circles?
I had no idea. I mean, I'm telling you, I had no idea where I was. Finally, around 4:00 in the afternoon, boom, 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 I shoot, and boom, 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 I hear a response. Well, I tell you, that's the happiest I've been. And so now we're getting closer, and as we're getting closer, I'm yelling, hey, Greg, and I'm hearing him shoot, and I'm shooting, and it's like we're getting there. And maybe within a half hour or so, we finally met up. There he is in I remember his car was blue. But it was a little beat up, little kind of, 21-year-old,
right?
A car that belonged to a 21-year-old. And he's like, man, where have you been? And I'm like, man, where have you been? And we were like, let's go. We got to get something to eat. I'm starving. I'm so glad that you're here. I had that red Georgia clay all over my boots. I was just miserable. And the thing about this story and the way it ends is, so I throw my gun in the back in the case. We get in the car, we start driving, and I'm just so happy to be in the car. And we're driving for maybe 30 seconds, and I'm like, stop. And he slams on the brakes. He's like, what's the matter? I'm like, hang on a minute. And I roll down the window, and I reach in my vest and take the squirrel and throw them. Didn't need the squirrel anymore. And I realized that I still had it in my vest pocket. So that was my Georgia turkey hunting story. Never saw a turkey the entire time.
Never
saw
one.
a turkey, never heard a turkey. And quite honestly, other than that squirrel, I don't think I saw anything else until I saw Greg at 4:30 in the afternoon.
And Greg never saw a turkey
No,
anything?
No. It was
Wow.
no. But the one thing about that adventure is it gave me a great story to share with you guys and with you on Mark Fisher Outdoors. So we hope you guys tune in tomorrow for another episode.
Please
Take care,
do.
everybody.
Stay channeled.